Hello everyone, it's great to be with you this morning at NobleCon18 and technology that is coming now into the mainstream, including NFTs, crypto, and other Web3 elements. And the reason for Forbes' presence at this very conference is another milestone for this brand, going public. You can get the story from CEO Mike Federle and CFO Mike York during their session later today.
COVID-19 has brought the global economy to its knees.
Inflation hit a 40-year record high in March.
The ruins of Mariupol are symbolic of Russia's devastating bombardment.
Putin is just trying to wipe out the idea of even being able to be a Ukrainian.
Being reckless in a way that you might not have anticipated.
Capitalism right now is going through a reckoning. There has to be a way in which profits and planet align. ESG, in theory, should help.
The Securities and Exchange Commission has come up with a regulatory agenda to bring in more regulation as far as ESG disclosures are concerned.
The crisis has caused panic about the fragility of global supply chains.
So there's going to be a tipping point, we all know it's coming, where people are going to have to pull back.
So the world is hot, to make no bones about it. This global economic picture is sort of a focus we're going to have today with, again, four very, very distinguished gentlemen who are going to try to help make sense of it all. So I want to introduce to you, first of all, with Ukraine all over the news and the heartbreak and the Putin onslaught, NATO has been front and center and has become a real talking point about, in a way that the world has never really recognized before. So we are very honored to have Brigadier General Blaine Holt, Deputy U.S. Military Representative to NATO.
General was running logistics for the European theater for the Defense Department when Crimea fell. So I'm pretty intimately familiar with some of the inner workings about how far back this goes. This comes from frustration. He was lied to by his military for decades that they were modernizing, that they had this wonderful military, they spent billions on it, and now we're ready to go toe-to-toe with the U.S. or anybody. But this is not the end of this if we don't stop him right here, my view.
Ronnie Silwan is Noble's head of investment banking. Ronnie, welcome as well. Good to see you.
There's clear market dislocation, whether it's in geopolitics or economy. Now, one thing that's lost in all of these market events that put us in this negative space is something called flight to safety. It's a big globe.
It is.
You know, use it to your benefit.
Chuck Rubin is the former chairman and CEO of Michaels. Chuck, welcome.
And unfortunately, in my opinion, I think some companies right now are just heralding the PR around their ESG efforts. Most recently, I was the chairman and CEO of Michaels. Prior to that, I was the CEO of a company called Ulta Beauty, which many of you may be familiar with as well. Both companies have as their customer base primarily women. But in both instances, when I arrived at the company, both the board of directors and the leadership team itself was primarily men. I would place the polarization of opinion, certainly true in America, but beyond America, as the greatest threat that we have. When we can't agree on facts, that is fundamentally a real problem.
And finally, Mark Chalmers is the CEO of Energy Fuels. Mark, welcome aboard.
We should shock people. We're comfortable with the United States is dependent on 20% of its nuclear products for nuclear power from Russia. We don't want it. We want to be energy independent, but you can't drill. Oh, we have all these critical elements that we have to onshore again, but you can't build it, you can't permit it. You know, you can't drill, you can't mine, you can't do all these things. So it's saying we need all this stuff, but you can't do any of it. That's what's happening right now.
Let's talk about inflation and this, all of you, if you don't mind, we'll kind of go down the line. In your best estimation, do you think the Fed will honor its promise?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gus Kepler. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Black Box Stocks. We are a financial, technology, and social media hybrid. We try to emulate platforms like Twitch that were designed for gamers. I don't know how many, let's see, I'm looking at the age group in here. I see some young people that know what Twitch is. And for those that don't, it's a platform where gamers stream their games live, and some people learn how to play video games by watching them.
I'm Mike Federley, the CEO of Forbes. Appreciate you coming to hear our story. We're in the midst of, we're merging with a SPAC, Magnum Opus. A lot of people ask me, how have you remained relevant for 105 years? And I really think the key to it is that we've been very consistent over the 105 years of what our mission is. And it's always been to give people the knowledge and the resource, the inspiration, and the connections they need to achieve success.
I'm Tom Shannon. I'm the founder and CEO of Bolero Corporation. We're the world's largest owner-operator of bowling alleys in the world. There are about 3,500 independently owned and operated U.S. bowling centers, most of whom are owned by elderly proprietors who are looking to transition out of ownership. And so it's an incredible opportunity for us to continue our consolidation of the industry. We've bought a number of these independent centers and we'll continue to do so over time.
What struck me with the panel discussion this morning, if you heard it, how many times Chris mentioned the gold rush. And you know, a lot of people think that this metaverse is going to kind of create itself out of thin air, but as we know, the mining space is responsible for pretty much everything we do in our lives. As everyone knows, the old adage, the best place to find a mine is right next to one, and we have an example of that in across all of our projects today.
This is a fantastic conference, some of the most intriguing, interesting topics. When Chris Ruddy, my boss, said that you needed to moderate this panel on metaverse, I loved it. I am completely involved in cryptocurrencies. I love what's going on with this whole new, wildly interesting growth area.
Big tech, big brands, big ambitions.
And the metaverse is the next frontier. It's called decentralized finance.
Blockchain,
cryptocurrency,
NFTs.
What is driving this Doge mania and where does it go from here?
Listening and that was a little bit over your head, don't worry because I'm right there with you.
I'm standing here in the metaverse. It's essentially a bunch of virtual worlds where you can walk around as a digital avatar, talk to other people, play games, and buy and sell things. What the hell is this? Is it even real? And should we be doing anything about it? Well, it's already getting pretty serious. Right now, people are spending millions in real-life money to reserve digital plots of land, office space, and apartments. Yes, really. It's a space where we're no longer restrained by things like, you know, gravity, the principles of engineering, or securing enough money to go ahead with a building project. Is the metaverse really going to end up being a thing? What could we build without the limits of construction here on Earth? And how might that impact the way we create our physical world in the future?
He directly reported to the CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, at Facebook and was the former head of Facebook's growth and monetization. He joined Facebook in 2012 as a part of a company's growth team, important. He rose to national attention over controversial topics, including whether Facebook used the microphones on smartphones to target ads, and a tweet in 2018 that questioned the findings of Robert Mueller's investigation, a comment that was retweeted by then President Donald Trump. Let's welcome Rob Goldman.
And I think it's much more likely that you'll have some kind of very diffuse augmented reality than you'll have huge numbers of people sitting in their house with goggles on, you know, in a virtual space all day in the future. Most, I'd say, politicians have an issue with the way the big tech platforms are handling things in one way or another, and there is a drive to regulate them, not just in the United States, but all over the world.
But we don't need government to help us secure it, though, do we?
Do we? I mean, I would say we do.
As the CEO of Forbes Media Group, he's been attributed to expanding the Forbes media empire to 70 countries and developed brand extensions into education and financial services, a media visionary. Let's welcome Mike Federley.
Even the whole decentralization of the internet and Web3 is about detaching the internet from servers, which would give you total privacy, but would also give you, very hard way to regulate anything that's unacceptable.
Interesting. Is the CEO of Motorsports Games, a video game developer and publisher of iconic racing games such as NASCAR and Le Mans. Let's welcome Dmitry Kosko.
Gaming has been a real easy to consume form of interactive media and experiences for many for a long time. And yes, with unfortunate events of pandemic, I was forced to be in front of my screen, and that's how I interacted with my work environment. I could maybe foresee that being combined one day. Like, okay, fine, if that's the new format, we'll go hang out over there and have a virtual drink.
He's the majority owner of Newsmax, a fast-growing streaming and cable news network and multimedia company. Let's welcome CEO of Newsmax, Christopher Ruddy.
Well, I think government's going to want to control, especially the financial transactions. Already, I think they're very much behind the eight ball in terms in their mind of controlling Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. This is probably like, I'm not even a lawyer, the emerging law on this is going to be immense over time. So I think companies, again, that do the infrastructure of the internet and the metaverse are always powerful players, and usually not the casualties we saw when the internet developed. AOL, Yahoo, they didn't go out of business directly, but they certainly are not like what we thought they were going to be initially.
Psychedelic drugs are commonly reported to trigger life-altering, mind-expanding inward journeys. But since being scheduled dangerous and illegal, any therapeutic benefits have gone largely unrecognized.
The efficacy rates here cannot be ignored. They're profound, and money will follow efficacy.
But these investors aren't just hedging their bets. They're true believers, intent on flooding psychedelic startups with the capital they need to invoke a revolution of the mind.
To first introduce you to two-time Stanley Cup champion and CEO of Wasana Health to tell his true story, please welcome Daniel Carcillo. Daniel, come on.
I'll just give you a little background about me. Played 12 years professional hockey and fought over 164 times in the enforcer role, and was forced into retirement in 2015 after my 7th diagnosed concussion. When I retired, I was dealing with slurred speech, headache, head pressure, insomnia, impulse control issues, on top of anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation. It was kind of my last-ditch effort to save my life. 6 months in, after 2 high-dose ceremonies, 3 months apart, and then a very specific regimen, I retested my brain, took my blood work. My QEEG came back for the first time in 5.5 years with no abnormalities.
He's now CEO of Cybio Therapeutics. I'm sorry. Let's welcome Evan Levine. Did I say it right? Cybio.
These things have been used for thousands upon thousands of years. There's evidence of early man, depicted in cave paintings using these. We believe that animals gravitated towards these drugs. Thousands upon thousands of patients were treated in clinical trials for indications we're discussing today: anxiety, depression, PTSD, and substance abuse. And the results are indisputable that this had a major impact. Here we are with this amazing emerging industry and a bunch of incredible companies doing work that I think is going to be world-changing.
And he's a board member of Bass Fiber Technologies and CEO of recently acquired Mazza Innovation after 10 years experience in research, development, and commercialization of novel extraction technologies. He's now CEO of Filament Health. Let's welcome Ben Lightburn. Ben.
Psilocin is the active form of psilocybin. So contrary to popular belief, psilocybin is actually not active in the human body. It has to convert through a process called dephosphorylation into psilocin, and psilocin is what actually crosses the blood-brain barrier and is what is responsible for all the therapeutic and hallucinogenic effects. One of the big questions in the psychedelics industry is whether the therapeutic effect can be separated from the hallucinogenic effect, or can be separated from the requirement to have a therapist present. Very bad experiences, these might be repressed memories that are coming up to the surface, that these are actually a good sign, right? These are a sign that progress is being made, that real work is being done in order to address whatever historical trauma might be causing your current symptoms.
He was integral in the private equity consortium that acquired Albertsons and led that company from $10 billion to $60 billion during his tenure. He's currently the CEO of a leading cannabis company, Schwazze. Let's welcome Justin Dye.
I think if you look at, if you look at treating pain, depression, anxiety, sleep, I think all of these things that we're talking about are real. I think if you look at the business around cannabis or psilocybin, I think it's obviously going to be a big opportunity for a number of participants. First, you start with medical. It's very important that we watch and maintain that you have clinical practitioners treating patients first and doing this in a very deliberate way where it's not getting in the hands of children, etc. So I think you're going to see medical, and then eventually I think you'll see recreational use, etc., like we've seen in cannabis.